Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the third developer log for ChronoMage. My name is Steven Messner, and before I get started showing you the progress that I've made on ChronoMage this week, I wanted to apologize because I'm actually a bit of a liar. So when I made my second developer log video a couple weeks ago, I said,
check back in next week when I have a new developer log on the project.
And then like 3 weeks went by. The problem that I had was I shot some footage, I was, making some good progress on this developer log, and then I made some errors in how I was filming things and how I was putting things together, and it kind of just made it a huge mess. And then because it was such a mess to work with and sort through and put together, that really sapped all of my motivation, and so I was kind of running out of time to put this developer log together. And it was just turning into an ugly situation, and I finally just decided, you know what, screw it. Let's just forge on, continue moving forward, and we'll start off the developer log like nothing ever happened. So I'm sorry about that. To give you a quick overview, though, of the progress that I made in the last couple of weeks with ChronoMage from developer log 2. So what I said at the end of that developer log is I was going to be working on the combat system, and I've actually made a ton of progress to the point where it's almost done. The first thing that I did was I wanted to create a new sprite-based animation for the characters, the main character's attack. The original one was just this ugly game object that kind of like rotated across this broad sweep, and it looked really terrible. It didn't work very well. It was so ugly. So I spent some time in Photoshop. I am not an artist by any stretch, but I spent some time in Photoshop at the beginning of the week putting together this quick little animation that was a much better looking sprite animation. And so using that, I was able to build out the foundations of a new combat system, which is I redid all of the code on how hits are calculated, how damage is calculated. I added things like knockback force so that when you strike an enemy, they'll go back a certain distance, and that can change per enemy. So like a big, strong troll might hit you and it might knock you back way further. I also implemented the foundations of a combo system. So now when you attack, you have 3 different attacks that you can sort of cycle through as long as you are, pressing the attack button within a certain attack window. The other big hurdle that I overcame was making your attack direction based on where your mouse was facing. The first version of ChronoMage that I developed had a combat system that was really reminiscent of old school Legend of Zelda games, which is that you move your character around and their facing and their attack facing is both determined by what direction they're moving. But knowing what I wanted with ChronoMage, this feeling of really frantic, fast-paced combat, I knew that I wanted something that offered players a finer degree of control. And so I decided to go with a system where you can move one direction and attack another based on where your mouse position is when you finally initiate the attack. The other final thing I've accomplished since the last developer log was I created a very rough beginning sprite for the main character. So this is ChronoMage. This is who you're playing as. I don't have a name for her yet. I have an idea on some of the story that I want to work into the game in very small areas, but I'm not going to talk about that today. But anyway, she's in there, so I put her in the game. Now we are finally all caught up to all the progress I made. So let's get started with the actual developer log for ChronoMage. All right, good morning, everybody. It is 6:50 in the morning. I am up bright and early, ready to get started on developing ChronoMage. So I'm gonna get some coffee and get started. So before I can get further this week, the things that I want to accomplish is I want to build up a charge attack. So right now I have this basic combo system in place where you can attack, but I want to have a ranged charge attack that players can use to hit far off targets. But in order to use it, you sort of have to build up and charge it for a split second. So before I can get working on that though, I need to fix something. I have a problem, which is that before, when I was doing the combat system in ChronoMage, the character facing was handled by simply rotating the sprite, because the sprite was sort of a top-down sprite and it didn't really mean anything. It didn't really have any facing. I just put a little dot on it to represent what was forward, and then I was just rotating that by like 180 degrees or 90 degrees to get its facing. Now I actually have this proper sprite in the game, and this sprite doesn't work. If you rotate it 180 degrees, it just looks like it's standing on its head. So now I need to implement an actual proper facing so that when I'm moving left, it changes to a sprite that is oriented facing left. So I kind of have it working now. The facing now is working somewhat okay for the character. Obviously there's still no walking animations or anything like that, but at least the character faces the proper direction that you're moving. So now that that's out of the way, it's about 8 in the morning. I have another hour before I'm going to get started with work. So the next thing I want to tackle is laying the foundations for my character's charged up attack. At this point, I have realized that in order to have a special attack, I actually need to have a projectile that is flying out of my character. So I'm going to quickly pop over to Photoshop before I continue too much more programming and quickly line this out. It's not going to be anything fancy. It's certainly not going to be the finalized version. I just need a basic projectile that kind of looks like the sword swipe that's going to shoot out of the character. I've realized now that one of the challenges with this is knowing which direction the projectile is going to launch in, and that's not actually something I know how to solve off the top of my head, but I'm running out of time today, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test and make sure I can actually get this thing working. And something is not working. Oh my god, okay. So obviously I forgot to turn off the animation after it starts firing. So right now it's just firing continuously, spawning thousands of these things per second because this function is called once per frame. I forgot that once the charge time has been depleted, it needs to be reset so that it's not continually firing these projectiles off. I also need to set my isChargingAttack variable back to false so that we know that we're no longer charging our attack. The attack is fired and now they have to press the mouse button again if they want to fire this. Okay, so it is now 8:40. I'm going to take off a little bit early in order to get ready for work. I have to make breakfast. I'm gonna make some eggs and some avocado, and then I'm gonna head to work. I have a really busy day today. I'm expecting it to be fairly tiring, so I don't think I'm gonna have any time to work on the game tonight. So I will see you tomorrow on Tuesday. Welcome to Tuesday. It is currently 7:20 in the morning right now. Slept in a little bit just because I was up late playing video games with Courtney, my fiance. And as you can see, it snowed overnight, which I'm very bummed about because winters in Alberta, where I live, are a hellish, never-ending nightmare. So today I want to get started on fixing the directional facing of the projectiles that come out of the charge attack. So I'm going to jump right into that and get going. Okay, so I did get a little distracted doing some refactoring, trying to clean up this code a little bit, but I did finally get a script that correctly faces the projectile based on the player's facing as well. It's not exactly the most elegant solution. I'm sure there's a million better ways I could be doing this, but I can't think of them right now, so I will, you know what, there's time for refactoring when you're dead. So basically how my character controller operates is that there are different states like attacking, there's a normal state, and then there's a dodging state, and that's how it can kind of access the different functions that it needs and stops you from, you know, for example, doing an attack while you're dodging. I've created another sort of set of states that are basically just your facing, if you're facing right, up, down, or left, and then using that, depending on how those states are set, that will then set the rotation for the projectiles so that it is facing the correct direction. And I'm just doing that with a simple switch. I don't know if there is a better way of doing it. I'm sure there is, but for now it works and I'm happy with it. So I'm going to stop here. It's about 8 in the morning, but I actually have a really busy day ahead of me. I am going to be writing a very involved feature, which is going to require a lot of time, and I'm excited to get started on it. One thing I should clarify, I said yesterday I'm going to go to work. I actually don't commute. I work from home at PC Gamer. So when I finish working on game development in the morning, I actually just sit down at the same chair and just start working on PC Gamer stuff instead. But today I'm really excited to get this feature out. It's something I've been working on over the weekend. weekend. So as I'm sure you're aware as game developers that the Game Developers Conference was recently canceled because of fears of coronavirus outbreak that is happening basically everywhere in the world. I've spoken with a lot of indie developers who are significantly impacted by the cancellation of GDC, just hearing their story, giving them a voice about what went wrong and how this is affecting them. And the good news is that the game development community is fantastic, and they are pulling together to start a relief fund to help some of these indie developers affected recoup some of their lost costs, which is really encouraging. If you want, you can go read the story. By the time I'm editing this video, it's going to be live on the website, so it would mean a lot. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. So after a full, long, stressful day at work, I am not in the mood to do any game development, so I'm just going to take the night off. I will see you guys on Wednesday. So it's Wednesday, it's early in the morning, it is 7:20, I slept in again. I've been sleeping in this week. I've been feeling a little burnt out, honestly, and today I've woken up and I just do not feel like doing coding. So instead of doing nothing on the project and just playing video games or something before I have to start work, I'm gonna just work on some art instead. So it's been about an hour and 20 minutes. It is 8:40. I have to get ready for work, but I'm pretty happy with this little animation I made. The character sort of flips their cape out. It looks pretty neat. This is my first time ever trying to do sprite-based animation, pixel art animation, and it's really challenging. This took me a long time. It's certainly not perfect. I think there's a lot of fine-tuning I could be doing to this, but I'm really happy with it so far. So I'm gonna get started. It's time to go to work. I have another really busy day ahead of me, so I'm gonna get going on that. But I will see you guys probably tomorrow. So it is Thursday morning, it is 7 a.m. and I'm up bright and early getting work on ChronoMage. I'm feeling a bit better today, so I'm gonna actually sit down and do some programming, and let's get started. Okay, so right off the bat, I was, just doing some testing, just playing around with the new charge attack, and I put an enemy back in my scene. It's my little chrono zombie. One thing I forgot to mention was that I made a little attack for him where when you get within range, he sort of lunges at you. But I've realized that I now have this weird bug, which is that if he lunges at you, his velocity when he sort of hits your character is translated to the character, but only expresses itself during your attack animation. So you can still move around normally, but as soon as you attack after the zombie runs into you, instead of taking this slight step forward like you're supposed to, you shoot back in the direction that the zombie was attacking you from, which is really odd. So I'm gonna be looking into this. I have no idea what is causing this. So it's been about 40 minutes of me just trying everything under the sun, and I have no idea. So I'm going to enlist some help from my friends. This is why it is so important to be involved with a game development community if you are not already. Having people that you can ask when you run into a wall is so much more helpful and time efficient than just, going through Stack Overflow answers hoping you can find the right solution. So I posted on Twitter and I asked some friends, and what the response I got back was that the move position function that I'm using to move my rigid bodies around, effectively move characters and objects around in the scene, is actually not that great. Apparently there's some real jankiness with it, and so people have suggested that I just manipulate the rigid body velocity directly when I need to. So I'm going to give that a try, and hopefully that fixes my problem. Unfortunately, I've run out of time today. I have to get going to work, so I do not have time to implement that supposed fix, so I'm gonna have to wait until tomorrow to try it, so hopefully Friday I can fix this very annoying bug. Okay guys, welcome to Friday. It is the final day of my work week, I think, on ChronoMage. I'm gonna take it a bit easy this weekend because I've been feeling a little burnt out. I was struggling a bit during the middle of the week to stay motivated, so I'm gonna take some time off and see how I feel coming back on Monday. But today, this morning, before I sort of give up for the weekend, I want to fix this bug. So I'm gonna spend the morning implementing the fix that I mentioned on Thursday, and hopefully that helps. All right, so I have replaced all of the move position functions and just now I'm manipulating the rigid body velocity directly when I need to move my characters. Of course, it required refactoring or changing a lot of the like variable speeds that control my character. But now that I've done that, I got it feeling relatively close to what it was before. And most importantly, when the zombie jumps into you, the chrono zombie, you no longer have this weird thing where you are lunging backwards each time you attack. So mission success. The bad news is now my zombies jump is broken. I do not know why. I am not very good at vector math, but that's going to be a problem for Monday. I'm pretty happy with my progress this week. I have a lot going on the weekend. Today I have a very full day at work again, and I'm hanging out with some friends on Saturday. So I'm gonna, just take it easy, and we'll revisit this on Monday. Okay, so that's gonna do it for this week's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this whole thing. It really means a lot to me. What would mean more to me is if you would take the time to like and subscribe, ring that little bell. That would mean so much. Leave a comment, tell me what you think. I wanna hear your feedback, both good and bad, on how I can make these videos better. But again, thanks so much for taking the time, and we'll see you guys in the next developer log.